The rain had soaked through her shoes long before she reached the broken glass door, and by the time she stood on the flickering sign of the abandoned restaurant, her hands were shaking from cold, hunger, and exhaustion. The building smelled of rust, old grease, and forgotten dreams, and as she pressed her forehead against the doorframe, a single thought escaped her chest like a prayer she was afraid to say out loud. God, is this our home? Clara Benson had no idea that the answer waiting inside would change not only her life, but the fate of everyone who had ever been told they were invisible. If you believe in silent heroes, in second chances that arrive when life has stripped everything away, take a moment right now to comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Stories like this exist because hope still survives in the quietest corners of the world. Clara had once lived a life built on ordinary joys. She worked as a line cook in a family diner in Ohio, waking before sunrise to prep vegetables and staying late to clean floors that no one thanked her for. Her husband, Daniel, drove delivery trucks across state lines, always promising that one day they would save enough to open a place of their own. They had a daughter, Lily, whose laughter filled their small apartment and whose drawings still live folded inside Clara's coat pocket. Then came the accident on an icy highway, a twisted wreck of metal and silence that took Daniel away in seconds. What followed was a slow collapse that grief pushed and the world allowed. Medical bills stacked higher than rent. Clara lost her job when the diner closed. Depression hollowed her days, and when she could no longer afford childcare, Lily was taken in temporarily by relatives who promised stability Clara could not provide. Temporary stretched into permanent. Clara slept in her car until it was repossessed, then in shelters until space ran out, and finally wherever the night allowed. Every step away from her old life felt like a quiet punishment. She did not know how to escape. The restaurant sat on the edge of a dying town in Pennsylvania, its windows boarded, its sign barely hanging on. It had been closed for years after a fire scare and endless legal disputes. The county wanted it off their records more than they wanted money. Clara learned about the auction from a soup kitchen volunteer who mentioned that abandoned properties sometimes sold for almost nothing. She scraped together $5 in coins, her hands trembling as she signed papers she barely understood. The clerk barely looked at her. To them, it was a joke. To Clara, it was shelter. The first nights inside were terrifying. Rats scattered through the kitchen. The ceiling leaked. The air was heavy with old smoke and regret. Yet it was the first place in years where no one could tell her to leave. She slept on flattened cardboard beneath a counter that once served families, her stomach aching but her heart oddly steady. Every morning, she cleaned. She scrubbed grease from walls, swept shattered glass, and whispered prayers into empty rooms as if the building could hear her. Weeks passed. Clara began to feel something unfamiliar stirring beneath the exhaustion. Purpose. She imagined the restaurant alive again, not as a business, but as a refuge. She fed other homeless people with donated food, cooking simple meals on a repair burner. Word spread quietly. No signs, no announcements, just warmth where none existed before. One evening, while clearing out a sealed office behind the kitchen, Clara found a loose floorboard. Beneath it was a rusted safe bolted into concrete. It took days to pry open using borrowed tools and sheer determination. Inside were old ledgers, deeds, and letters tied with faded string. The name on them made her breath catch. Samuel Whitaker, the founder of the restaurant decades earlier. A man known locally for feeding people during hard winters and hiring those no one else would. As Clara read through the documents, the truth unfolded slowly and painfully. Samuel had built a network of small restaurants across the Midwest, quietly funneling profits into a trust designed to support community kitchens and shelters. When he died, legal disputes froze the assets. The final clause stated that ownership of the original restaurant and its land would activate the trust, but only if claimed by someone willing to operate it as a place of service, not profit. The trust was worth over $15 million. Clara sat on the kitchen floor for hours. Paper spread around her, crying not from joy but from the weight of it all. All those nights hungry. All those prayers whispered into darkness. The legacy had been waiting for hands like hers. The process was not easy. Lawyers doubted her. Officials questioned her mental state. But the documents were airtight. The ownership was legal. The trust activated. News broke quietly, then loudly. Reporters came looking for a miracle story. Clara avoided them. She focused on what mattered. She restored the restaurant slowly, hiring people who had nowhere else to go. Former addicts, single parents, veterans. She reopened it not as a luxury place, but as a community kitchen by day and a job training center by night. No one was turned away hungry, ever. Shelters received funding. Affordable housing projects began. Legal aid offices opened. And somewhere along the way, Clara was reunited with her daughter, not because of money, but because of stability built from purpose. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that compassion can outlive despair, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video so others can feel it too. Before the ending, we have a special request for you. Comment, "Hope still lives." If you believe second chances are real, Clara still unlocks the restaurant every morning. She still scrubs floors when needed. The sign outside now glows steadily, no longer flickering, no longer forgotten. And every time someone walks in with nothing but hunger and fear, she remembers the night she stood in the rain and asked a simple question: God, is this our home? The answer was yes.